What is the most expensive divorce that has happened in India?
Currently, it's ongoing where the wife has asked for $1 billion plus in assets.
You were part of the case with Saira Banu and A.R. Rahman.
That's right.
Cricketer Yuzvendra Chahal
Correct.
and his wife Dhanashree.
Yeah. No one in the end cares whether the public will misjudge me because I gave a lesser alimony or I gave a higher alimony.
The entire episode that happened with Gautam Singhania.
When women come to me, they say, ma'am, my husband is really powerful. It can be a politician, it can be a cricketer, or it can be an actor. That's when you come to Advocate Vandana Shah. Look at you, you're fabulous. But you can't tell a guy, give me dowry, I'm getting married to you.
Yeah.
Somebody came to me, the husband is worth 5,000 crores. The marriage in Udaipur Lake Palace, whopping 25 crores in the marriage. Every function, some 25 gold bars are going. What is this? If this is not dowry in another form. When we talk about Stridhan, prenuptial agreements are not legal in India. Men, if you have these large families, you can keep some of your money safe in the...
How do alimonies typically go in India?
There are two things.
Infidelity, sexual incompatibility.
I see the ones between 25 to 35. They are quite okay to forgive an infidelity, but they are not ready to forgive incompatibility. Investment bankers, 40, 45, suddenly your net worth has increased like 50 times. They want to trade in their wives. Somebody's gone through a divorce because the husband doesn't know how to use cutlery.
No.
Yes. I used to call the father calculator because he used to walk into my office. He used to take out his phone and say, Madam, now his business has increased this much. Every time I spoke with him, he wanted more money for his daughter. But I don't find in India the men want to apply for alimony. But like in Hollywood, men apply for it.
What kind of evidence matters most in divorce proceedings? What if a partner refuses to get divorced?
Well, then you just have to go through an acrimonious divorce.
What does that mean?
Which means...
Of Shikhar Dhawan, he's not been allowed to see his child.
Let Shikhar Dhawan come to me. At least I'll help him to meet his son.
Welcome to Humans of Bombay, Advocate Vandana. You look like a breath of fresh air.
Thank you.
That's the first thing I need to tell you because you just look amazing.
Thank you very much. And I must return the compliment. And I'm so happy we are twinning in black.
Yeah, we're twinning. But it's so lovely to have you here. And especially now, I feel like adding context to separation and divorce is a need of the hour because there's so much out there in the media. There's so much speculation. There's
Correct.
So many high profile cases that are being overly discussed. So to put some method to the madness, it was important to get you on the podcast.
Thank you
today.
very much for having me. And I listen to your podcasts. I like a lot of them, the ones especially which speak about marriage, bravery, motivation, and, basically getting out and getting a better life.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I like a lot of those.
And that has been the theme of your life as well, where, you lost everything. And
Yes.
today, not only have you made a comeback, but you're helping other women who are navigating something as complex as divorce find their voice. So can you talk to me a little bit about your journey first?
So I'll start by saying that, I restarted my life with 750 rupees in my bank account. And I always say that although the money was only 750 rupees, but my dreams were always there. And I walked out a billionaire because at least my dreams were alive. And I feel that someone who doesn't dream is not alive. And being trapped in an abusive marriage, you feel that you're not alive. It's like each day seems like a replica of the previous day. You live in constant fear and you completely negate yourself. And I'm happy in a sense that part of my life came to an end, but whilst it came to an end, it gave me a new life.
Yeah.
And I never speak about my husband in the sense of his name is not important, and his what they do is not important. But my story as it emerged from that is important.
Absolutely.
And of course, you'll agree with me, whenever something happens, something not good happens, you're always in this phase of your mind that, why me?
Yeah.
And I had so many why me's during that phase of my life. I'm an Air Force officer's daughter. My father was a fighter pilot, and he fought 3 wars for India. And my mother was a homemaker, fabulous cook, loved me to death. And I grew up as a very bright student, always excelling in class and being a topper through and through, good in athletics, the works. And, suddenly you walk into this marriage and everything comes to an end.
Yeah.
And now when I reflect, I think maybe that was important for me to get to another phase of my life. And, there are a lot of whys. But today I say, thank God it was me, because maybe my background and my bravery prepped me for being, in a way, a pathbreaker.
Yeah.
Speaking about divorce, no one talks about divorce. Everybody thinks that if you're a divorcee, you're a failure.
Yeah.
And I feel that people have forgotten that it is your marriage that has failed. You are not a failure.
Yeah.
You have to separate the two. And whilst going through a divorce, my divorce lasted for around 10 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And
10 years.
10 years.
That's precious years.
That's precious years.
That, and in the worst possible construct, because
Yes.
you're fighting the dirty laundry is being washed
Absolutely.
and aired, and it's that lingering after effect that's so bad.
Yep.
You just want to be done with it.
You just want to be done with it. And, my parents were not alive. And, I was fighting the battle alone. But in some sense, I feel that, because there was nothing that was in one way holding me back, and I had to make do with whatever I had, so I actually, instead of constantly languishing and constantly being sad, I said, okay, now this is what I have.
Yeah.
So let's get on with it, and I first I got a job, and I said, because there's no money for tears, you have to live your life. You have to survive. So suddenly from being, relatively upper middle class,
Yeah.
you suddenly go to and you say, 750 rupees in your bank account.
What am
What
I
are you
going
gonna
to
do?
do?
And you're not trained to, say that, okay, I'll just go and stay with a relative and I'll
It's also your dignity and your
exactly.
self-respect, right?
Thank you for understanding that,
Yeah.
because a lot of people say, oh, but, you could have done that.
No.
No.
Yeah.
You just get up and you make your own way. I got a job, and whilst during the course of the job, I always wanted to write. So
Me too.
good. I think writing just gives you that sort of platform for your other self.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful, and so I said, okay, whilst doing this job, I had more time in hand. I started writing. I set up India's first divorce support group called 360 Degrees Back to Life. And, I don't like people being judgmental. So my support group was India's first non-judgmental support group. I said, like I said, that, it is the failure of a marriage, not a failure of your life.
Yeah.
Please separate the two. Every failure at work or in your personal life should be separated from yourself.
Correct.
And I set up the support group, and, we helped so many people. And I'm saying we because there were all of us in it
course.
together.
Yeah.
And we ended up counseling so many people. We kind of set up chain counseling, so whoever we finished counseling, they would counsel other people.
course.
We had free legal aid. We helped people to get their lives back together. We helped people to get jobs, And during the course of this, something else happened, which is that one day I was talking to my divorce lawyer, and she said, and I said, I think something is missing in this petition. And she said, she looked at me and she says, are you a divorce lawyer? I said, no. She said, are you a lawyer? I said, no, I'm not a lawyer. She says, when you become a lawyer, you come and talk to me. I was like, okay then.
And how old were you at this point?
I was about 27, 28.
Right.
So I said, okay then, And, I have all these genes, I mean, my genes are not quiet genes. I have Sardar blood and all sorts of, And so I said, I'll become a lawyer. What is there? So I promptly enrolled in college, and I was very proud of myself because, and I enrolled in government law college, and my marks were very good. So, and the fee was low, marks were good. I was earning from the NGO. I said, I'm good to go. And, so a parallel path started, which I didn't know where it would lead. But, so many things in your life are so passion-based, and kind of seizing the moment, something that you do, I follow your life journey also, just kind of seizing the moment, taking a brave step ahead and, moving on. So I decided to become a lawyer. And whilst we were also parallelly running the support group, my people said that, Vandy, these experiences should go out. People should benefit from them. Okay. I started thinking, and I told you I love writing. So then I wrote a book based on the experiences of people going through divorce in my support group, and based on divorce in India. And that's called 360 Degrees Back to Life.
Yeah.
And because, you go through that entire journey.
Yeah.
And
especially you, because I don't think just about any other divorce lawyer would truly get it. Because once you've been there, you truly are also in a position to empathize, not only logically reason with legal or with technical terminology, but you get it.
Yes. And also, even now, although it is now 15, 20 years, but still, even now, you feel that, maybe I am that litigant. Hey, don't do this, because I did that, it didn't lead to a great result.
Yeah.
So I just feel that, that's where I wrote the book 360 Degrees Back to Life, and it's endorsed by Gloria Steinem, who again I met whilst going through this divorce. I'm meeting Gloria Steinem, the world's foremost feminist. I mean, so you've got to let your life flow.
Yeah.
And you've got to let it flow in a positive way. You can't just keep on saying, why me?
Yeah.
You also have to say, okay, me, because something good has to benefit everyone.
Right.
And so I wrote that book. I got to travel abroad, and after 10 years of that, that 10 years, I just kept on building myself up. And I think that's a really powerful way to live, rather than just languishing and saying that, but what is this stigma? Why is this happening? The BBC made a documentary about my work. It's called Invisible Women of India. And it talks about me trying to fight the stigma of divorce and being a lone voice fighting that stigma, because no one wants to talk about divorce.
Yeah.
Divorce is like the emperor's new clothes. It's people want to pretend that it's that it doesn't exist. But, I say divorce is that unwanted house guest, which is here to stay. So better prep yourself.
Absolutely.
I mean, so that's pretty much been my journey. And has it been easy? No, it's not been easy. But a sense of humor helps, and also this whole grit, determination. And like I always keep thinking that if my dad was alive, how would I be answerable to him if I gave up? How you have to rise above yourself and do something. And, Karishma, the minute you start doing that, you just get to this stage that, okay, my pain is maybe very little in comparison.
Yeah. And you saying that after the journey that you've had is just such a tremendous thing to say.
Thank you.
Like you said, right, divorce is still such a taboo subject.
Yes.
Like, it's almost like you're a failure, and your entire life is pegged on this one event.
Yes.
And this one circumstance,
Yes.
not everything else that you are.
Yes.
And so many stories that we've told on Humans of Bombay talk about that, right? Where
Yes.
women are looked down upon because of divorce, or they're considered unmarriageable again because you've already had a divorce. And I hope that's changing, but I'm not so sure, but hopefully we'll discover it in our conversation today. Hi guys, I hope you're enjoying the podcast, but I'm going to stop you here because I've noticed that so many of you watch our podcast but don't subscribe. So please pause this video here and go and hit that subscribe button because it really helps us grow. And with your support, we want to bring you many more fantastic conversations. Thank you. And with that, let's get back to the podcast.
I mean, it's like if you are going through divorce, it's like you have a communicable disease. You know, so don't come close to me because you're going through a divorce.
Yeah.
And you know, don't sit for this religious function because you're going through divorce. You know, and I just feel that that's not the case.
Yeah.
You know, are things changing? I would like to think that yes, we've all got together and made some measure of a difference, but there is a long way to go.
And the numbers also say that, right? Because in the past, I think 4 years, the numbers have doubled. So there are years where there are 12,000 cases of
Correct.
divorce that are happening.
Correct.
What do you think is a reason that there is this spike?
So I also want to give an example. You know, around 15 years ago, when I used to go to the family court in Bandra, I used to see that, you know, there were like what I call 15, 20 matters on board. You know why I'm not saying cases? Because sometimes the cases is only one, but it can have 3, 4 subsections. So you say matters. Okay, so there were around 15 to 20 matters. Today, when you go 10, 15 years later, you're seeing 70 matters, 80 matters, 90 matters on board, which means it's actually over 10, 15 years. It's become like 7 to 8 times.
Yeah.
You know, people are waking up, and I see a lot of the changes in real time. Like, I see a lot of fathers coming with their daughters and saying, my daughter cannot stay in this marriage. I educated my daughter not to be what was a marriage 30 years ago. See, they are not saying that I kept my wife like that. But they want a better future for their daughter.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so these are like real life changes. Like recently, I had a father who had come in with the daughter and he said, you know, she's studied, she's highly educated. I am going to support my daughter. And my son-in-law does not love her. And I thought, like, my God, that is so refreshing to hear. And he says, Madam, whatever happens, I don't want her to be in that marriage because she is very unhappy. And we educated her so much. She likes studying. She wants to be a full-time career woman. So we will support her because her husband doesn't.
That's so refreshing to hear.
Yeah, you know, so all these are real-time changes.
Absolutely.
Which are happening. And also I see in my case, a couple of daughters have come to me and they said, you know, ma'am, now we are 21 years old. And I think you're only 21, you know, but they make it look like, oh, we're now 21. We've seen our mother suffer for the past 10, 15 years. You need to tell her that being in an abusive marriage should not be an option. She needs to get a divorce. You know, so when you hear these voices, you actually turn around and say, wow.
Yeah.
You know, that this is good things which are happening out there.
Absolutely.
You know, that people don't want to be in a bad marriage. People want more out of a marriage.
And want to support family members who are going through it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know,
And the generation doesn't matter. It's even daughters for the mothers.
Daughters for this thing, fathers for the daughters. You know, not that just stay put in that marriage. Now you're married, so it's for, you know, forever and ever and ever and ever. So I like that.
Yeah.
You know, like divorce should be an option. I'm not saying enter marriage thinking that you're going to get divorced.
Yeah, absolutely not. We're not like cynical at all.
No, not at all.
Because there are people who have lovely marriages.
Yes.
And beautiful marriages.
Yes.
And you watch them and you feel happy because that's a possibility.
Absolutely.
But if it is abusive, it's not okay.
It's not okay.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, someone once asked me that, you know, what would you advise your younger self if you could, you know, about being or not being in a marriage? Would you say break your marriage? I said, no, I would never say break your marriage. But for me, a couple of things are non-negotiable. And the biggest thing is abuse. Because money, everything comes and goes. But abuse eats you up.
Yeah.
You know, it just destroys every being of yourself. You know, I've been in that. I mean, I'm sitting here and talking to you, and of course, I argue a lot in court. But, you know, at one stage in a marriage, I just felt like I used to look in the mirror and practice talking because I had lost my self-confidence. You know, and I mean, you know, I was a state level debate, you know, a debater at a state level. And here I am because I'm constantly being told, you don't know how to dress. Look at you. How do you look? How do you talk? Your parents never taught you how to talk. You know, that plays on your mind. So for me, abuse is something which is just water down the drain. It's never going to come back. So never be in an abusive marriage. Okay. Rest, everything else can be worked out.
Yeah.
You know, but abuse is non-negotiable.
Yeah. But let's talk about divorces in the Indian context, right? A lot of people say that for men especially, it's there is a bias when it comes to divorce, because while there are extremely terrible and abusive men who have done nasty things, there are also good men.
Yes.
And there is a saying that goes, men are guilty until proven innocent.
Correct.
In the Indian demographic. You've seen so much of it. What is your opinion?
So I just think I'd like to split it into two. When we look at things socio-legally, in the social context, women are convicted before even the marriage falters. Okay. Maybe in the legal context, we look at men being guilty before the verdict comes through. So I think they both balance each other out. You know, I'll give you an example. Okay. When we were talking about, you know, people say that women are using ABC law for their benefit. Okay. But I also say, let's look at why were these laws made? The laws were essentially, let's say, dowry. We never ask a guy to give us dowry. Okay, I mean, look at you. You're fabulous, you know. And but you can't tell a guy, give me dowry, I'm getting married to you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That labeling never ever comes. Why did that law get made in such a way that women or their families were expected to pay to get the women married? And dowry, make no mistake, still exists.
Yeah.
Whether it is direct or it is indirect. Whether it is indirect, by indirect dowry, I mean that, you know, these expensive weddings, you know, or, you know, buy this car, you're going for destination honeymoons, everybody's coming along on the honeymoon, you know, so all that is expected.
And you've seen all of this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I was shocked because somebody came to me, the husband is worth 5,000 crores. Going through a divorce, okay, and when I was meeting the girl's parents, and they said, no, Vandana ji, you know, when we came, we did the marriage in Udaipur Lake Palace and this and that and all of that. So they had spent some whopping 25 crores on the marriage. And I said, but uncle, you didn't take this money back from them? Was it split? He said, no. That we only have to do. Why should they do that? I just thought in my mind, I said, but he's got so much money.
Yeah.
I'm saying, no, Vandana ji, it doesn't work like that. We are the girl's parents. So we have to do it. And he had this entire list of things that he had given over. It was a 15-year-old marriage. He had given every function, some 25 gold bars are going. What is this? if this is not dowry in another form?
Hmm.
So no one talks about that openly because it is accepted and acceptable.
So how does a case like this typically go? So now that you have it in front of you, right? That okay, obviously you cannot term it legal dowry because it's a wedding that's being paid for,
Correct.
or gifts that are given on
Correct.
each function, plus a list of things that are given over time, etc. How does this factor into the alimony?
So it doesn't factor into the alimony directly, okay? But see, when we talk about stridhan, we say whatever the girl got in the marriage, she should get back. Okay, so that comes under a broad terminology of stridhan. So let us say this 25 gold bars, she can ask for it back when we are doing a final settlement. And it's not only, I'm not going into too much of the legal, whatever you want to ask me legal, you can ask me, but but it's the Supreme Court allows you also wedding expenses. It also allows you this whole concept of that, whatever you have spent in the marriage, you should get back. Okay, whatever came to you as a girl, you should, from both sides, you should get back. So that is the larger concept of stridhan. So if we were to fight this case further, we'd say, look, we gave you all of this during the wedding, you need to reimburse this back. But alimony is a whole different story.
Right.
Alimony essentially is dependent on your lifestyle, your financial implications, where you stand, what you earn, what is your general lifestyle when you are together. I'll give you an example. There are these fabulous judgments. Rajneesh versus Neha talks about affidavit of assets and liabilities that you have to file before the honorable court, to get a fair estimation of what is the financial wealth. So, and in India, unlike what everybody believes, in India, there is no percentage of alimony. There are no percentages.
Right.
It varies from case to case. It varies from what you argue. It varies from lifestyle to lifestyle. You can be really rich, but you may not have a very extravagant lifestyle. So that is also taken into consideration while deciding the alimony. It's a multitude of factors. There are so many other new judgments which have come, which help you in getting an alimony or not giving an alimony.
Right, because also there are so many different controversies or conversations around the fact that you can hide assets. Or
Correct.
You can even hide debts.
You
right?
can even hide debts.
So how does one protect themselves from this kind of situation, especially when wealth is in concern during a divorce?
Correct. So that's when you come to Advocate Vandana Shah.
Let's just say that now. We can have the tagline.
Yeah.
That's the short answer.
Yeah. So for women, okay, I'll start with women first. I'll say that, if you are having, you should have, definitely don't have joint accounts for everything. Have some money which is only your money. Set aside your money, keep that safe, keep it with you. Okay, money can be in various forms, direct or indirect.
Yeah.
Indirect money I always call as gold and other jewelries, which will come handy for you.
Yeah.
Okay, direct money can be your savings if you are married in a traditional, let's say a traditional family, where you're not allowed to work, but you get a lot of other money, for your expenses. Use that money, keep it separately. Okay. So when you are going to prep for a divorce, I also talk about get ready, check out your finances, see what you have, what you don't have, check out who are good lawyers. I'll come to all of that later. But just your one basic premise of how do you protect assets. So for women, I would say keep them separately. For men, if you are prenuptial agreements are not legal in India. So for men, if you have these large families, look at the trust route. You can keep some of your money safe in the trusts where if you feel that, you don't want your wife to get all the money, you can have a trust and you can keep your money safe in that. And you can also, of course, if you have a large conglomerate, your salary, which kind of comes in perks, that is not that easy to get to in an alimony. So these two are very, very short answers. Rest, it's all quite complicated and this thing, but these are the basic answers.
Right. And how do alimonies typically go in India? For example, I know you said that there's no percentage. It's not like I can say 50%, right? It's yours.
No.
But like with large families, when you're speaking 500 crores, 5,000 crores.
That's correct.
How does it typically go?
So there are two things. One is the amount of money that you have. Second is the desire or the intent to give away that money in lieu of freedom.
That I don't want to stretch this out for now 10 years.
Correct.
That's time which is equivalent to money.
Correct.
Yeah.
So like I have had someone come into me and his net worth was around 500 crores. Okay, the husband and the wife, it was not a very simple divorce. It was acrimonious. But they put an end to the acrimony in 6 months. She got 250 crores. He stayed back with 250 crores. I know, and even she knows that he has more money stashed away. But 500 crores was available and she walked away with that 250 crores. Now, 2-3 years hence, we found he does have more money. Does she want to pursue a legal path? No, she doesn't.
Yeah.
So, it was not like this whole magnanimous desire to give away the money. But nobody has a magnanimous desire to give away money. Okay. But he said, I just want to end this marriage.
I want to be done with it.
I just want to be done with it. And he moved on further. Having said that, there is a case which is ongoing, which has come to me. It's ongoing for 16 years.
Till now?
Till now. And the guy is just going on stretching it out and stretching it out and stretching it out. He just doesn't want to give the money.
What is the amount?
She has asked for 100 crores. Okay. But I thought that he says, I will give you 15. But now I just feel that for 16 years, if this has stretched out, perhaps if she had taken that money then, it would have been pretty good. Because she could have used that money, she could have used the time.
Yeah.
And I also, one thing which I tell every lady who comes to me and every gentleman who comes to me, 99.9% of the time I represent women.
Right.
Yeah. And I tell them, settle it out in the first 3 years. Because after that, it is not going to increase by much. And when you do this thing with the time, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
But people always feel, no, maybe if I stretch it out, but that has not been my experience.
Yeah.
First 2-3 years, you also sort of end up, looking at the best interests of children. You end up doing good for yourself. You're not that hurt. You see, it is, how much ever we might say, it is a battleground.
Right.
Your most intimate part of your life is out there for everyone to see, to
read.
devour.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at it like you're devouring that
Information,
life.
yeah, the life. Yeah, absolutely.
And if you're a public figure, it's even, good God,
it's messy.
it's terrible.
Yeah. Like there was obviously the most recent one, there are 2 or 3, but
Correct.
Of the cricketer Yuzvendra Chahal
Correct.
and his wife Dhanashree.
Yeah.
Everywhere, right?
Everywhere.
It was, she's getting 60 crores in alimony, and there were all kinds of things that were
Correct.
said about her.
Correct.
And eventually that amount in the hearing and all of this was released was about 4.95 CR rounding off.
But was that anybody's business?
No, but does public scrutiny impact these numbers sometimes?
What do you mean impact?
Can it move a certain way because it is being speculated and spoken
No.
about in the media?
No.
No.
It never does. Because from whatever, large, high-profile cases that I have handled, and I've handled quite a few, as you may be aware, no one in the end cares whether the public will misjudge me or judge me harshly because I gave a lesser alimony or I gave a higher alimony. It has no impact. All they care about is
The money in the bank.
the money in the bank, and all they care about also is that my personal life shouldn't be out there in the public domain.
Yeah.
What transpired in the four walls of the marriage shouldn't come out, and I think that is a privacy that should be their right.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
I never ever speak about what is going on, in a marriage. Obviously, I know what's going on in a lot of people's marriages.
Of course.
I mean, but I am taking that secret with me to the grave.
Yeah.
So I never ever give those out.
Absolutely.
So, but everybody wants to know. And I really don't think that is anybody's concern.
Absolutely. But I mean, when it's public figure, it's a high profile divorce, like in this case, or so many others.
But you can know that, okay, fine, that the marriage is not working out. Why do you want to know? But was it not working out because of this? Or was it not working out because of this? Or what is the amount? I mean, it's like Schadenfreude to another level.
Yeah.
Or you're looking at that. I mean, a lot of times the people call me and they say, no, is it true? This one has got so and so. I said, assume it's true, but that money is not coming to you.
Yeah.
So why should you care that
Why
much?
speculate? Right.
To the extent that it's become an obsession. Normal interest, okay, no
that's
problems.
fine. Yeah.
But obsession, no.
Let's talk about two particular factors when considering a divorce. Right? First is infidelity.
Correct.
Which is not considered a crime
Anymore.
by law anymore. But it still holds as a ground for divorce.
Of course.
And the second, let's talk about sexual incompatibility.
Correct.
And how does that factor into the divorce settlement, or is it a good enough factor for divorce?
Okay, so I'll answer it keeping in mind the age group. Okay, I see the ones between 25 to 35, okay, who've been married for about 7 to 10 years, okay. They are quite okay to forgive an infidelity, okay. It could be a slip up, okay, but they are not ready to forgive incompatibility.
Like sexual incompatibility.
Yeah, they don't like that. Because they say, no, it should, this is what we were discussing, ma'am, and now he's saying this, and I don't think that's fair because we had this discussion before marriage. Like I had someone who had come in and she said that, I mean, it's an arranged marriage of sorts. And she said that, ma'am, but now he's saying that I am very busy with my work. I will allocate time for being sexually intimate only once a month. She said, I'm not okay with that. Now, would this have been a question to someone who is 50 plus and who's had a 30-year-old marriage? No. Over there, sexual incompatibility doesn't come up.
So it has so much to do with what stage of life you're in.
Correct.
Right.
And also your infidelity. As you grow older, if everything else is working out okay, in India, I find a lot of women turning the other way. They feel if they're 50, 55, it's okay, They know that the infidelity is there. My husband is a serial cheater. Okay. And sorry for saying only about the husband. I'll come to the wife in a minute, But my husband is a serial cheater. But I'm okay with that because he's good in every other way. And now where will I go? And children also know about it, and they tell me to do something about it. But now where will I go? And he's provided for everything else. So women at that stage, unless and until it's been an otherwise abusive marriage, they are not ready to call it quits.
Wow.
So infidelity in that sense doesn't matter. At that stage, actually, I find the guy who will say that I've met someone and I want to call it quits.
How often does this happen?
Quite a lot. especially men who have come into money. Suddenly, the hedge fund guys, the investment bankers, 40, 45, you worked for 15, 20 years, 40, 45, suddenly your net worth has increased like 50 times. They want to trade in their wives.
Sad
So
and
it
shocking.
is really sad. It's really shocking. And that's why I keep telling women that, you need to get your finances
In order.
proper.
Yeah.
Yes. Gone are those days, when the other family members would prevail upon them and say, no, let her be there. Don't let her go out. You can be with the other lady. No, nothing. Now it is about the numbers.
Yeah.
So I tell women, you all also become smart. Don't be like the wives of yore and say that, he's going to look after me in perpetuity. Maybe get a skill set. If you can't get a skill set, at least get your finances in order. And I find it really shocking when women come to me. I'm married to this guy whose net worth is ABC, let us say 100 crores. And no, but I don't have my own bank account. Why don't you have your bank account?
Yeah.
No, ma'am, because he was going to work. Okay. I was looking after the children. Anything I ask him, he used to provide for it.
So what's the need to set up a different
Exactly.
institution?
I said, what about credit card? No, mine is an add-on credit card. I said, come on. You can't not have an identity of your own. That means basically you know nothing. And the husband is filing the income tax returns. You benefit, there are certain sections in the income tax that you can benefit by, transferring a part of your income to the wife so that your tax liabilities are lower. You're just signing as a wife. You can't do that anymore. Times have changed.
Absolutely.
And you will be hauled up by income tax. You can't say, I was the wife, so I don't know.
You've signed it.
You've signed it.
Yeah.
So
when
I
you
just think that women, think that women should get financially strong. Women should work, have an identity within the marriage, but also outside the marriage. An identity that works and earns. I must give credit to my dad, who said that however my daughter looks, and in India, of course, we are biased towards women who are fair-skinned and so on and so forth. However she looks, whether she's fair-skinned or she's Snow White or she's Cleopatra, but she must have a degree which helps her to earn money and to stand on her own 2 feet. And my father was born in 1931.
Yeah.
So what a progressive man.
Absolutely.
Like the first ever feminist in my life is my dad.
Yeah.
So I give a lot of credit to that.
Absolutely. It's also about the upbringing, right? Which
Absolutely.
is why you are where you are today, because it's a combination of all of these factors that have led to it.
Absolutely.
When you said times are changed and
Correct.
this doesn't work, another interesting development in our society is obviously live-in relationships.
Correct.
How does the law factor in to live-in relationships and partners who separate after living in together after a certain time?
So socially, it is still not that acceptable as it is made out to be. Okay, there is still a lot of gossip and all of that around live-in relationships. We are still not that okay with it. Okay, but see, legally we are ahead. So if you've lived together for 3 to 4 years, you do have legal rights. People don't know about that. So you are then a legally wedded wife or a legal spouse. So you do have legal rights. And also, if you had a child out of the live-in relationship, that child has all the rights, or if he was born out of the marriage, as if he was born out of a marriage between the couple.
It's considered the same.
It's considered the same.
Wow.
So see, that's why I separate. I'm the only lawyer who talks about socio-legal in India. I separate the two because socially we may be at a different phase. Like socially, women are not expected to claim from the father's property. Legally, we've settled that issue long time ago. women should be given a share of the father's property. People get shocked. I said, yes, read the law. That we are way ahead in the laws which are formulated for women. Implementation may be poor, but our laws are really strong. And I actually started studying the law when I was going through my own divorce. And then, of course, I studied law. And then even now, I read a lot, of course, So you say, oh, wow, okay. Sometimes you're thinking, oh, there's nothing for this. No, wow, oh, yeah. The Supreme Court has factored this in. So I like that.
Yeah.
That there's a lot of scope for women. But socially, we are quite
regressive.
Road rolled.
Yeah.
Because we say, no, this is not right. This is not right.
Why are you living in before a wedding or before a marriage?
Correct.
It still exists.
It still exists quite a lot. Like a breakup of a marriage. Although we are working towards, it's obvious with even the informal numbers that I shared with you. We are working towards better systems for ending an abusive marriage. But still, we stigmatize people going through divorce.
Absolutely.
It's kind of this whole thing that, it's that, you're not new to the marriage anymore. This is a second marriage. This is a third marriage. That is where women get like the short end of the stick. And that, no, first preserve the marriage. I'm all for preserving marriages. But, at what cost?
Yeah.
That is what is the question today. And that's why I feel in that sense, divorce is an option if all gates to your marriage have closed. And by all gates, I don't mean minor irritations. There's something which is beautiful said by the Supreme Court where it says that your normal wear and tear of marriage shouldn't be seen as part of a divorce. That, he's sort of very typical, stereotypical things like, oh, he doesn't keep the bathroom clean. He's dropped the towel under this thing.
This comes up?
This comes up. Somebody's gone through a divorce because the husband doesn't know how to use cutlery.
No.
Yes. That I said, you've got to give me something more. There was a divorce where the husband has bad body odor. I said, just invest in a perfume. Don't go through a divorce.
Oh my God.
Yes. So let's not get so ahead of ourselves that, okay, fine, just put him for a finishing school, make him learn how to use a fork, knife, this knife, that knife,
So have you actually solved a few cases
I have
in your office without saying, don't go to the legal route, just like do this?
Yes.
Give me a few examples.
So this couple, okay, and I felt that the marriage had a lot of scope. I could see that they both loved each other. They had a daughter. And the frivolous reasons for the marriage breakup were like, she's not getting this handbag, but the sister-in-law is getting that handbag. So I was like, when I was hearing it, I said, are you sure you want to go for a divorce? No, ma'am, my parents feel that, if I'm going to be ill-treated in this way. But are you feeling ill-treated? She was not feeling ill-treated. So after the first meeting with the other side lawyer, I just said, I think we should let them sort out their differences themselves. You won't believe it. After 6 months, they didn't need us. The husband and the wife moved to another house and they've got another child now.
Wow.
And they called it off. So I thought that was really, really good.
And families are so involved in divorce proceedings. What are some of the most shocking things that you have seen? Because you hear about these things, but you pass it off saying it's not possible. But
no, it is possible.
Yeah.
It is possible. Families, they are constantly winding you up. This is not, like the previous case. That girl was perfectly fine not getting another designer bag. But her mother kept on winding her up. The father I used to call the father calculator because he used to walk into my office. He used to take out his phone and say, Madam, now his business has increased this much. I was like, Uncle, every month his business is increasing, you know. So he said, this much she should get. Every time I spoke with him, he wanted more money for his daughter, you know, and I didn't meet him after they patched up. So I'm sure he's not very happy with me, you know. But also, a lot of times I find the guy and the girl are quite happy with each other. But it's the relatives who keep on and on and on and on, especially if it's a working woman. You know, men understand the pressures on working women, and they're okay with it a lot of times. But, you know, you'll certainly have some chachi or masi or auntie or neighbor coming and saying, no, but why isn't she cooking for you?
And why is she working so many hours?
Why is she working? Where does she go? You know, where does she go? Which office is open till late? No, I've got offices which are open very late.
Yeah.
You know, so...
We are sitting in office right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, so all these things, you know, it's like their mind. I give an example of that, you know, I am not in the landline black and white TV phase. When we use technology for betterment of our lives, why hasn't that seeped into our married lives? Why aren't we opening our mind to that? Yes, women work. It is not necessary that every woman has to sit at home. And if there is a homemaker at home, hats off to her. She's also got a life outside of that. Times have changed and moved. It is not like the olden days. If it was the olden days, then why aren't you still using black and white TV? Why does everybody have a mobile phone? So you're happy to adopt and adapt to technology, but you're not happy to bring about a mind expansion and say, look, times have changed.
Yeah.
Like I have someone, he's perfectly happy sitting at home. And this case came to me about 5 years ago. He was happy being a house husband. The wife goes out, she does all the work. Now they are facing problems because his mom is on him all the time. But why are you sitting at home? Why are you going out with the son all the time? You know? So he says, but my wife has got this top shot job in a media company and she is earning more money. Arey, you don't feel bad? You know that you're sitting at home and you're looking. He said, but I'm also doing my work, but I'm a stockbroker. So I can work out of home. I can look after the child. This used to never happen in our time. You know, and the mom is not even staying with them. So this is just a nuclear family, you know, happily getting along with each other. But now this guy and that girl, they both came to me and they said, ma'am, what do you think we should do? I said, don't do anything. Just y'all are both happy with this arrangement. Carry on with it. You know, so people can cause a breakdown of marriage.
But how does it work now if there is a stay-at-home husband and the woman is working in the marriage? How then does the alimony conversation happen?
So, you know, in India, under the Hindu Marriage Act, under section 24, which no one speaks about, it is the section, I've actually carried that with me. It says if any spouse, it does not say wife. But I don't find in India the men want to apply for alimony.
It's not acceptable in the societal construct. Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, no.
Yeah.
How can you do that?
How can you ask?
You know, it's going to be your ego is bigger than that. But like in Hollywood, men apply for it. Like Britney Spears ended up paying her ex-husband. He was quite happy sponging off her. You know, so, but in India, you will not do it legally. You know, your wife may be going out there getting all the money. You know, so many times I heard a case even yesterday where they said that, you know, during COVID, the wife had a job, husband didn't have a job, wife provided for everything, you know, and now that COVID is over, the wife had some medical issues and she's not working. But there's no chance that the husband is returning that money. He's not paying attention to her. They're looking maybe at a separation, you know, but so they're not doing it directly. I don't think any husband will come out there and say, like I had recommended to someone, he genuinely lost his job. And I said, you know, would you consider applying for this? So he started laughing. Don't be funny. I'll get a job. I said, okay then. So get a job,
Get a job.
Yeah, so this whole ego, machismo is much bigger in India. And after all, we are a patriarchal society. That's why, voices like ours make a difference. After this show, if even 10 women get up and say, you know what, I'm going to better my life because I heard this and life's not so bad. If you can sort of, in a way, become deaf to the critics, you are useless critics.
Yeah. And why should anybody make a commentary on your marriage?
Absolutely.
Outside of you and your partner.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I just feel that, all these things India is fascinating. As a country, and there are so many layers within layers and so many subtexts that it's very difficult to encompass a wedding. A wedding is different from a marriage. Even at the wedding, you'll have people complaining. However, if there are 110 dishes to eat, they'll say they should have been 115, or they'll say that they should have only been 5. People get up from weddings saying that, this arrangement is not good enough.
It's madness.
It's madness.
Yeah.
And then you have the marriage where things work out. And but you'll have some relative. I have someone who very interesting case in South India where they are talking about no, you've had a baby girl. I don't want to accept this. So he wants to leave his wife because she's had a baby girl.
Still, that's
now.
It's madness.
And he's a very rich, influential person. You wouldn't think. So, people want to walk out of marriages for reasons which are steeped in I'll say misogyny, steeped in things which have no relevance today. People want to walk out of marriages, and people have this whole expectation. It's like, like we were talking, divorce is one event. You cannot define your entire life with it. In the same way, although in India, marriage is the ultimate luxury destination, but it may be a destination, but it is a journey. Marriage is a journey.
Of course, absolutely.
But people don't think of that. People think this is it. Now I'm married, my old life is gone, and now I've got this whole sort of global passport to travel visa-free everywhere I want. I go through life in that fashion, and it's not true.
So, speaking of which, right, if supposing it's not working out with two people, but they decide that they're just not getting divorced on paper, but they have separated.
Correct.
Years later, can either partner have a claim?
Of course.
It still holds.
Yes.
Wow.
Husband and wife, if you are married, you can still claim. Very interesting.
Yeah. Because you can go through life, be with other people, but then you can still have a claim
Yes.
to the partnership. Very, very interesting.
Nice, no?
Nice. What about if you get married under a different law? Like you go to the US. What if you're married somewhere else? For example, you decide to go and get married in Vegas.
Correct.
Can you get divorced here?
It just depends on various factors in the marriage. Whether you got it registered, didn't get it registered, whether the wife has filed, whether the husband has filed. But by and large, even if you marry in another country, you can file for divorce in India. So because each of it has specific factors involved. But yes, by and large, you can file for divorce in India.
And the second biggest, or I don't know where it falls on the spectrum, but a complication is children. Because if you're married and you're having issues and you decide to separate, but there's no child, it's far less complex.
Absolutely.
So let's walk through, how does custody impact the case? How do then finances factor into the entire thing, because there is a child in question?
Correct.
How is the law catered for this?
So the Supreme Court is very clear okay, that the well-being of the child is supreme. Okay, you have to provide for the child. Okay, especially things like education,
Yeah.
especially things like medical, especially things like what encompasses a larger form of education. It could be I'm enrolled in school, so this is my school fee, this is my child's school fee. But also the child has to take a trip to NASA as part of the educational concept. The Supreme Court, if you are in a position to pay, the Supreme Court talks about that also.
Yeah.
So essentially, your child is taken care of. Welfare and well-being of the child is above the parents. Secondly, it also talks about access. So it talks about access to the child, to both husband and wife. And I want to emphasize that because men always think that, no, we don't have access. No, you have access to your child. And you must insist on access to your child. Because at the end of the day, I may be fighting in the woman's corner, but you've got a child here, which is torn between the two parents. And I will never advise anyone to say, don't let the child meet the father. By and large, you may not get along with your husband anymore, but he is the father of your child. So I will never ever do that. And in custody matters, all these things, finances for the child, supreme. Access to the child, supreme. Medical for the child, supreme. Does it impact the finances? Naturally.
Of course.
So if you plan to give only 2 lakh rupee per month as your interim maintenance, I'm on interim maintenance, which is your monthly maintenance. Okay. If you only plan to give 2 lakh rupees a month, but now suddenly your child has been sent on a trip to NASA. Okay. So you'll say, okay, you know what? I'm earning 10 lakhs a month. I can easily afford to give for the child. So you will give for that child. So it usually, even the court views it in that fashion. If there is a child involved, Supreme Court judgments are clear that you have to provide for the child.
But how will you keep going to the Supreme Court?
Why should you?
For example, if it's 2 lakhs.
It becomes a precedent.
Oh.
Why I talk about the Supreme Court? Because, of course, there's the lower court, let's say family court, then you have the High Court, and then you have the Supreme Court. So your Supreme Court judgments are at the top. So the minute they give a judgment, you can go with that judgment to the lower court. You don't have to go each time to the Supreme Court.
But you can also just have a conversation saying that this trip is coming up. Can you, this month will be an extra amount? Or do you always have to route it through lawyers?
It just depends.
Okay.
Some of them I have seen are very nice and they say anything for the child. So, and in those times, I tell them, you know what, talk to your husband. He will pay. In fact, just before I've come here, I've got a case where she wants an iPad for the daughter, and she wants the husband to pay for the medical, and there is another trip coming up for the child. So I just sent out that email and she said, ma'am, should I pick up the phone and speak with him? I said, no, I will talk to the lawyer. I think the lawyer is quite amenable, so they will grant it, because this lady has not had success earlier with her husband. And because the husband keeps bringing up the past. And she says, but now we are at the stage of finalizing our divorce. Now the past is over. And in fact, even when I have a settlement conversation, I start by saying, please, let's not bring about the past. Today, we are at the crossroads of moving to a new life for reasons best known to you both. Because we always also forget that marriage is within that 4 walls. It is he said, she said.
Absolutely.
So there are no, and the absolute truth may differ from your actual truth.
Correct. And
or your truth.
And this is a never-ending conversation.
Never ending.
Yeah.
So it's so your basic question, which was that, what about the you don't have to go to Supreme Court every time. You can use that judgment, and also you can talk directly. There's no
rules.
There are no real right rules or wrong rules, but whatever works in that situation.
What if you flip the narrative and the father's getting custody of the child?
Hardly ever happens in India.
What is the percentage?
1 to 5%.
Okay. And what are the factors that go that way
For the father?
for the father?
Well, I've handled 2 cases. In both cases, the mother wanted the child to be staying with the father. So, in essence, she gave up custody. In one case, she was going abroad to study and she felt that she would be in no position to look after the child. In another case, she was getting, it was a girl child. In the second case, she was getting remarried. So she did not want to take the minor girl child in this new marriage.
Right.
So it is quite tough.
For a man to get full custody.
That's correct.
Okay. What if a partner refuses to get divorced? Said, I will not sign the papers.
It happens in India.
Yeah.
Well, then you just have to go through an acrimonious divorce.
What does that mean?
It means that it is not going to be a divorce by mutual consent. You go through the entire route through court. But you can file for divorce. There can be, divorces where you, like I told you, that 16-year thing, the 16-year divorce.
So why isn't that route been taken in the 16-year divorce?
So they've now moved to the High Court. So let us see whether it goes up to the Supreme Court.
But why not earlier?
Because, they've moved a few years ago now to the High Court. Why not earlier? No, they've not got the divorce because the husband doesn't want to give the divorce. And this other case also, which was very interesting, which came up in the Supreme Court, where a woman in her 80s, she refused the divorce. And the court honored her. She said, I don't want to die as a divorcee. I want to die as a widow. I don't want to get divorced. I'd rather die as a widow than as a divorcee. So the Supreme Court has honored her
request.
Yeah. Because we are essentially, of course, divorce is out there in the public domain now, but we are essentially a pro-marriage country.
Yeah, absolutely.
We are not a pro-divorce country. Even when we go to court the first time round, when we file the papers, there are a couple of counseling sessions which are held in court. And in those counseling sessions, some people decide to patch up.
Yeah.
A, and B, some people also say, okay, fine, I don't think this fight is worth it. Let's just settle this out.
Out of court.
But we are a pro-marriage country. You'll see even in the conversations with the relatives and so on and so forth, everybody says, no, just see if it's going to work out.
Yeah. So in the light of that, right, are there any landmark judgments that have been passed that have completely changed how divorce cases have been fought?
Rajneesh versus Neha, because it talks about, this is the first time really that this judgment came up where it said that you have to have an affidavit of assets and liabilities. Okay, before that, it was, I'll never say that now you can't hide your income, but before that, it was relatively easier.
Now there are few hurdles.
Now there are quite a few hurdles. About hiding your income. Okay, so that Rajneesh versus Neha I really like. Okay, the second, I like the 498A, which is now, of course, it's become BNS. So this thing has changed. 85, I think, is now the new section, but I'll go with 498A. Okay, I like the way now it is that now means a few years ago. You have to remember that it is law, that you can't come in and arrest the husband and his family immediately. You have to issue notice. Okay. And once you issue the notice, by and large, what I like is bail is the rule, jail is the exception. So, that fear that, oh my God, I'm going to go to jail, I'm going to go to jail, I'm going to go to jail. It is minimized. Okay, so I like the 498A. I like the protection of women from domestic violence. I'm talking about the entire act, where a woman can't be thrown out on the streets. So at least a woman, I feel, you've got your, there's no English word to say it, I'm going to go with the Hindi word, your basic izzat to not be out on the streets. So you are given a roof over your head. I like that judgment. I like that entire act. Okay. So for me, these, and I like the Supreme Court judgment where it says that the fathers should get access. And it says that the welfare of the child is supreme.
Is priority.
So I like that judgment. These are, I think, 4-5 landmark judgments which have changed another one, which says that you can be granted a divorce within a day, and you can get the 6-month waiting period or the cooling off period waived off.
How?
By applying to the court. So you can, if both the parties are ready, you can apply to the court. If the court thinks that, yes, it is within their discretion, it's happened in the Supreme Court. So if the court thinks that, yes, they both are now too incompatible, they cannot stay with each other, both of them have expressed a desire to move on.
What are typical factors that determine, okay, they're relatively incompatible and it's not going to work out?
Okay, so I'll give you an example. I just fought that case. So both of them were saying we don't want to stay with each other. Okay. The father had provided for the daughter. Mother was working. She said, I'll look after the daughter. And the most important thing in her case, she said that she wants to get remarried. So the court took, and the husband didn't object. So the court took all these factors into consideration and they waived off the
6-month period.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
So, no one knows about that. That's like a really significant landmark judgment that, you don't that typical cooling off period, you can get it waived off.
When it comes to divorce, there are so many different agendas. Of course, the first is to just preserve your mental sanity, but there's also a lot of personal vendetta because the marriage has soured so much.
Yes.
How have you seen that? And
all the time.
Okay. How does the court deal with a situation like that?
So, it all comes out in your petitions. That, he said this, and then actually I gave up my job for him. I stayed at home. I moved from Dhule to Bombay. My house in Dhule was so big. I am staying in a tiny flat in Bombay. I gave up my entire lifestyle. I gave up my entire life to be with him. And now to feel cheated by him. So, a lot of times the women or the men, they, like I said about the 16-year case, they don't want to give the divorce. No, I put my life on hold for you. Now I won't give you the divorce. So now you suffer. And a lot of them come to me and say, ma'am, I want to teach her a lesson. Or ma'am, I want to teach him a lesson. Because this, it is your closest relationship. After your parents, a marriage is the closest.
Absolutely.
Physical, emotional, mental, I won't say financial, So it is your closest relationship.
So how does a court deal with that?
So the court, during the course of a cross-examination, they just keep on saying, okay, let's skip this out. This is not relevant. Let's skip this out. The courts are aware.
Okay. Yeah.
That this vendetta exists. And in India, it doesn't get that violent, but it could get violent abroad. It gets
absolutely.
violent. But this vendetta exists. It's real. Everybody wants to teach the other person a lesson. And the court becomes like your battleground. Your lawyers, we become your warriors for you. So we go out there in court and battle it out.
You'll have to do that. Yeah.
So, and that's how you work it out. But it is anything which is divorce, and the other are family feuds. A lot of family feuds actually end up in the people who are warring end up in penury, and the lawyers drive off in BMWs.
That's insane.
So it's true.
Yeah. Okay.
It happens.
Let's understand a bit of trivia. What is the most expensive divorce that has happened in India?
In India, currently it's ongoing, where the wife has asked for $1 billion plus in assets. I won't take the name.
Okay. Oh, it's ongoing though.
Yes.
Okay. But it's in the public domain.
It's in the public domain.
So then why can't you take the name?
I don't know what to take the name. You asked me what is the most expensive divorce.
Okay, we'll find it.
Yes.
We'll add it as a little bit of a
Done.
BTS.
Done.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more about celebrity cases because they're so spoken about. Let's just add a little context to it.
Sure.
Right? You were part of the case with Saira Banu and A.R. Rahman.
That's right.
What are the emotional complexities or even the complexity of optics when a couple like that is separating after 30 plus years?
Around 30 years. Being in the public eye is tough. And like we discussed, everybody wants to know what is the truth. But like I say that I think especially when you're in the public eye, you do want your privacy. You want the sanctity of that marriage or whatever is left of it to be preserved.
Right.
And I think it's hard. It's hard. I think your emotions get magnified because there is this love between y'all, but there is also that what is going on in the public. You are aware of it because you've been in the public eye forever.
For so long, right.
And I find that in every celebrity case, in every one of them, they don't want to discuss their personal life. And I just think in some sense, they are entitled to that. I mean, I find it, I just feel really bad that, if the information leaks out, I feel really bad. Because I've seen them, I empathize with them. I've seen them crying, I've seen them being upset, I've been seeing them, sometimes you're just sitting and thinking that what happened to my life? So you see those moments. So I have a deep empathy and sympathy. I don't put out any details in the public eye.
Yeah.
And in India, we are so many of us.
And as their counsel, you can't, it's just wrong, right?
It's wrong.
So, yeah. What is the, when it comes to another very public kind of, I don't know if it's not just divorce, but just the entire episode that happened with Gautam Singhania, which was out there. How does that kind of position men in power and divorce? Because also, you have agency a lot more than any other average Joe, right? Who comes to you and says, okay, I want to get a divorce. You have a lot of agency, you have a lot of influence. How does that play out?
So, it's a really good question.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I'm going to answer it in detail. A lot of times when women come to me, they say, ma'am, my husband is really powerful. Okay, he's got, by agency, I'm borrowing your word, agency. By agency can be physical, mental, emotional, social, and financial. Okay, it can be a Gautam Singhania, it can be a politician, it can be a cricketer, or it can be an actor. At the end of the day, the men have much more agency. Does it impact the judgments? Not at all. People always feel that, because my husband is a known figure, he'll come to court, everybody will see him, and everything will go in his favor. No. It is only in your mind's eye that it is going in his favor. Actually, legally, if you just dig your heels in, it goes in your favor because we have really good laws. We have really, 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 really good laws for women. Like I said, implementation may be difficult.
Exactly.
But socially, it is in your mind. And you always have that fear. You see, you're also been in that marriage. So, the wife always feels, wherever he goes, everybody, I am only known as Mrs. So-and-so, and everywhere he goes, people respond to him, people listen to him, people only react to him. So, when this happens in court, it's going to be the same. No, it is not the same. And the judges, I must say, are very fair in that context. The judges are really fair. They look at both aspects. And when you read the judgments, which come out in detail, they have been very clear.
But where discretion is involved of the judge.
There's always discretion.
Correct. It's discretion, right? So there's so much noise around, judges can be bought off. And especially if it's a powerful person with agency. How common is it?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so. I've never faced it. And for me, the judiciary is this labyrinthine, ever evolving. For me, the judiciary is alive.
Yeah.
I treat judiciary like a living being. So I just think people who talk about judges being bought off are people who lose cases. I feel there are people who don't go prepped to court. So it is very nice to tell someone, I think this has been done. I have never said it, that a judge can be corrupted, and I will never ever say it. Because I went for this case in Chennai. I went with a 472-page written argument.
My God. 407.
That's a lot of pages. So the judge listened to me.
Yeah.
So, go prepped and be with lawyers who are prepped.
Okay.
And, be with lawyers who encourage a positive view of the judiciary and of your case. I always tell people, lawyers who tell you you're not getting anything, please don't go to them. You are anyways in a bad shape.
Yeah.
Don't be in a worse shape. Because court cases are difficult. Court cases like divorce take over your life. Till no one talks about, till you're married, you can't have a personal life. You can't be in a marriage in India and say, okay, P.S. I'm getting a new boyfriend, or P.S. I'm getting a new girlfriend. I'll go against you. It's not like America.
Yeah.
So your entire being is invested into that. Choose a lawyer who empathizes. Choose a lawyer who wants to win for you. Choose a lawyer who is ethical. And choose a lawyer who does their homework. I think, and choose a lawyer who, when you have to choose a lawyer who you say, okay, you know what? I could sit and have a cup of tea or coffee with this person.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, it's such a simple thing, but it makes sense.
So I just feel that go with these qualities while being involved in a court case, because it is going to take up a lot of time. Make no mistake, divorce is still painful.
And long.
Yeah. Painful, long, courts, so it's, in that sense, it's never ending. So, keep yourself in good cheer.
And
choose
the lawyer wisely.
Choose a lawyer like that. Choose people who make you see hope.
What's the latest in the divorce proceedings of the co-founder of Rippling, which is Prasanna Shankar?
God.
Yeah.
I am just rubbernecking reading about that.
It's all over, right?
It's all over.
Apparently the company is worth $13.5 billion.
Correct.
So how do you see that playing out?
I just think that I wish he had not gone and put it out there. I just think that they should have sat down with really good lawyers and with family friends or with family and sorted it out. You see, is this going to play out in court really well for him? I don't think so. Unless he has hard, solid evidence. So now why would you put this out there? This is just what we were talking about.
Yeah.
You're in the public domain. Why would you want to put your personal life out there in the public domain? Just to get eyeballs for some time and some sympathy?
It's
no.
crazy. Yeah.
Crazy.
Another very interesting case was that of Shikhar Dhawan.
Correct.
Where he was granted divorce on the basis of cruelty.
Correct.
And he's not been allowed to see his child.
I feel very bad about that case.
So how does the Indian court defend its citizen in a situation like this?
He has tried really hard. I really, really, really wish that he would approach the Supreme Court and ask them to pass an order in his favor for that child to be brought back to India.
But can it be done?
Of course. And also approach the ministry. Because at the end of the day, she is in contempt of court. But he is just tired. I think his son is called Zorawar.
Yeah.
He is just tired, I think. And I think he's a really nice guy. He seems very soft. Oh, you interviewed him.
Yeah.
Okay. Very soft, So maybe he feels that, okay, for the
Leave it be.
for the well-being of the child. Well, let Shikhar Dhawan come to me.
Yeah.
At least I'll help him to meet his son.
Yeah.
I'll
tell him that.
Please tell him that.
Okay.
Because I think that is really unfair.
Yeah.
And he fought it and he won it, and he still doesn't get access.
It's sad.
Terrible. And it's nothing much. Women always tell me, no, ma'am, they'll corrupt the children. How will he corrupt the child? The child is are you such an insecure mother? The child is with you 23.5 hours a day. Half hour, if the father will speak to the child will get corrupted? I don't think so. These are also a lot of wrong socio-legal advice. I don't give this advice ever.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's why I'm happy with the work I do. You've got to have some sort of a moral compass.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Work with that, and you'll always excel in what you do. And you also have to be, happy with yourself.
Yeah.
I'm a happy divorce lawyer.
Yeah, you seem very happy.
Yeah, I'm quite happy. Actually, I'm very happy with myself. At the end of the day, I feel I've done good. I've done things that would make... my father's been a big influence in my life. I've done things which would make my father proud, my family proud of me. And, and I feel that my answerability and accountability is to the being up above. And I feel happy with that. There have been cases where I have returned the papers. I said, no, I don't think I want to go with this fight. It doesn't match with my moral compass.
So important.
Yeah. And because at the end of the day, if I have to do this for a long time, I need to feel happy with myself.
And sleep well at night.
And sleep well at night. Yes.
Now we have a fun segment. It's what the internet wants to know about divorces and marriages and everything surrounding that. Okay?
Done.
What's one outdated law in India that needs to change immediately?
Get married by the age of 18. I think they need to change that.
There's a law like that?
I'm saying like an unspoken law.
Right.
That needs to go.
Okay. If you could give one piece of advice to someone considering marriage, what would it be?
Never give up your old life completely.
How can a woman ensure financial security during and after a divorce?
During a divorce, she needs to keep working if she's a working woman. She needs to keep her... So she should plan her finances before she files for a divorce, what I call have a divorce kit ready, in which finances, friends, support group, family, and spirituality make a big part. Okay, so keep that ready before you file for a divorce. And after a divorce, of course, whatever money you get in an alimony, after you come to consult me, you'll get a big alimony.
Yeah.
Invest it wisely.
Okay. What kind of evidence matters most in divorce proceedings?
It depends. If you're filing for adultery, of course, it is a big difference. If you find the couple, let's say, making out in the middle of a hotel room, and you've got that as evidence, it makes a big difference.
Okay.
What we call as primary direct evidence.
So we've done some research online, and you're writing a new book.
That's right.
Yeah, and the title has appeared in our research. I don't know if you've released it.
Not as yet.
Exactly, but maybe I'll ask.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's called PhD.
That's right.
Which is Pali Hill Divorces.
Pali Hill Divorces.
Okay, so I heard that and I was like, this is a bestseller.
Thank you. Thank you.
So what is it about? And there is a particular... Okay, I'll come up with the second part of this question. What is it about?
So it's about, these large divorces that I handle, and what are the quirks in those divorces? How are the lives of those people? What are their reasons for divorce? So basically, what I call as the richy bitchy divorces, So what are those people expecting in a marriage? What are they expecting in a divorce? What are those kind of lawyers? How are they made? And it's also got a murder, where I say there's a chapter which says, is murder cheaper than divorce? So
Oh my God. Basically, you are like, everybody, please read this.
Please read
you are
this,
going to be
absolutely.
very fascinated with this
absolutely,
complex
thank
world.
you.
There's also a road that you talk about very infamously and say that I've handled divorces on this particular street. Please do explain.
So that is my this whole section, the new redeveloped Lower Parel, which I call like my hedge fund section. Everybody, the men make money after 40, 45. Then suddenly, they decide my wife is 40, I should get two 20-year-olds, and get married to them. And for that, I need to upgrade from a 5 crore residence to, these very fancy residences, which have these, only one name will be there, 42 North or 63 West, and the flats cost like 18 crores, 25 crores, 40 crores, so I call that hedge fund specialist road. All of them are divorcing their wives. All of them are cheating on their wives. And all of them are buying fancy houses of which their new wives will be a part of, but not the old wives. So that's the road.
That's the road. And that's the
road.
Story behind the road.
That's the story behind the road.
Okay, that's all I have for you today.
Thank
but
you.
I will have a lot more for you in the future. And I
Thank
know
you.
that there's going to be a part 2 and 3 to this conversation.
Thank you.
And like I said, I just want to be your friend.
Thank you very
This is
much.
such a
I will
happy
happily
lawyer.
be your friend.
Because you're such a happy lawyer.
Thank you so much.
And thank you so much. Thank you for all that you do and so much respect for your journey. Truly. Thank you so much.
so much. Thank you for having me. And you continue your courageous work and give people voices. That's what you do. The ones whose voices are not heard, you're giving them a voice. And I'm just so happy about that. So keep continuing to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being the best community, and we'll see you in the next one.